Hi, Chloe. It was indeed a very emotional morning speaking with Melanie van Nelson this morning. She lost her 16-year-old son, Courtney Jackson, in March last year. So I came back to this area after my 8 o'clock crossing in Lavender Hill, and I brought you to the scene. This is where Courtney Jackson was gunned down in March last year, and there are still remnants of that. There were 7 hollow point bullets found in his body. The rest in this wall. One over there, another over here. This wall is riddled with holes from that day when Courtney lost his life. Now, 16-year-old Courtney Jackson is one of many children and young people across Cape Town who have lost their lives as a result of gang violence. Many innocent lives have been lost because of gang violence in and around Cape Town and on the Cape Flats. Courtney himself saved a 6-year-old girl that day. He had covered her with his body, took all the bullets in his body, ran her into this house, got her to safety before running out and collapsing right here. I'm joined by his mother once more. Melanie, thank you so much for joining us. We brought you back to the scene. What does it feel like reliving that day and coming back here to the place your son lost his life at?
When I come here and as I walk from home, I'm facing the hall, and before I enter the shop I walk so slowly because I'm still thinking, wondering how, question mark, how did he respond when the guy pointed the gun to him? I'm still looking for answers. I still try to figure out how did he stand when they shoot him, did he call mommy? Because none of us was here. And it's much more than pain. When it comes to a Friday, then it's like 1 o'clock. He came from school, he went to go sleep on his bed. Saturday, when it comes to Saturday, between 7 and 7:30, that was the time when the thing started, when he was gunned down. And it's like I'm freezing. It's like I have a moment of silence. Nobody knows it, only me doing it. And I try not to love that way, to take it out of my mind and to let go. People say let go. You must start to let go. But it's not easy. I don't know. You tell me how. What must I do to let go? But
this morning as well, you told me that you're angry.
Yeah.
And at some point you feel like giving up, but you have your young son who's standing here with you. Just elaborate a bit and tell our viewers about the pain you have to endure every day.
This is Cohen, he's 11 years old, and I've got so much fear. It feels like these days when it gets too much, the battlefield is working overtime. It keeps in my mind, Courtney, eat Courtney, sleep Courtney. Everything I do, Courtney's in my mind. It never can go out. I feel like I'm getting crazy. I just want to run away. I feel like just give up hope. But then on the other side, here's Cohen. Cohen need me the most. And especially 3 days ago, he packed his brother's cupboard right. And then he got to the pants that Courtney had on that Saturday. And he was looking to at the 3 holes from his ankle side. And he was start crying. He was so emotional when I got there, and I said, Mommy, you know, I just cried now when I saw Courtney's pants. Why? He's also looking for why. I can't even be strong to help him, and I just hug him. That's all I can do.
Holly, that is the pain that many mothers, fathers, caregivers across Cape Town are feeling today. Many people who have lost their children the same way Melanie van Nelson had lost her son Courtney last year.
Leanne Jansen, I've got to ask you the question. Authorities, I mean, this is an ongoing warfare among gangs, particularly in the Cape Flats. Are we any closer to ever resolving that situation in Cape Town?
It seems not. For my 8 o'clock crossing, we were in Lavender Hill. and there were no police to be seen, no police visibility. While we were doing our live crossing, a police van then approached because someone had let them know that we were in the area. But it seems that the authorities don't have a grip on this issue. It seems like they will never have a grip on this issue. I told Uveka earlier this morning that I was here 10 years ago covering the deaths of 3 children between the ages of 11 and 12 who were also killed during gang battles in Crossfire. And 10 years later, the situation remains the same, unchanged. So for now, it seems at least that authorities don't have a grip on it and will never.
It's a helpless situation. Thank you very much, my colleague Leanne Jensen, live for us from Steenberg in the Western Cape. Let's turn our attention to Westbury now, here in Gauteng, one of the communities plagued by gangsterism. A woman was killed there last year after she got caught in the crossfire of a gunfight between rival gangs. This prompted Police Minister Bheki Cele to send a special unit to deal with the gang violence there. Most recently, a gang leader's death has caused mayhem in Westbury, and the community is living in fear once again. ENCA's Masego Ratlaga joins us live from that community now. Masego, good morning to you. So Mrs. Heather Peterson lost her life in September of last year, and a 10-year-old was wounded on that same particular day. Talk to us about this special unit, whether it has been able to restore some semblance of stability there.
Good morning, Xoli. Well, the TRT, the promises of the TRT being here were made by the minister himself, Bheki Cele, last year in October, after those several weeks of protest by Westbury residents here. And actually, when I speak to most of the residents, different residents have different versions of the story. But what I pick up is that basically about a month or two after that request or that demand from the minister, there was a lot of presence from the TRT, and then as the months went on, it just started dwindling down. But I have seen so far, since we've been here at around 6 o'clock, so it's been about 2 hours or 3 hours since we've been here, and I have seen about 3 police officers, some of them Metro police officers' cars. So there is some sort of presence that's happening. But I just want to show you, Xoli, in terms of what's sad that's been happening in this community. I'm going to ask my colleague Tebogo Masilo to just pan for you. As you can see, I'm at a park. Obviously, when you have a park in a community, it's for children to be able to play, it's for children to be able to meet with each other and have fun, to feel safe in that park. But apparently this park is a big problem here in Westbury, Xoli. Apparently children, such as the ones that you see there, obviously we won't show their faces. Actually, some of them, as you can see, they're very small kids. They are smoking. I actually witnessed it myself. They are openly smoking. These kids look about 10 to 12 years old, and that's what we're hearing from the community members, especially around the houses here next to the park, that the sad thing is that this park is being used for, not for the children to play, but for the children to do other things and the adults to apparently sell the drugs to them. But Xoli, I do have with me, this is where I'll just invite my guest, Tilly Michael. She is the chairperson of the CPF in Westbury. She's spoken to us before, Xoli. Matili, thank you so much for joining us. You're live on ENCA.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me.
As you heard, as I was telling Xoli right now, this park, a serious thorn for, the parents of these children that are meant to come here to play. What are the stories that you can tell us that we've seen come out of this park?
And it's not just this park, unfortunately. All these parks that are placed here, you saw we got lost this morning. There's a park just across the Ria Vaya that was burnt out. All these parks have become a menace in our community. And I think it's the moral decay of our community itself. I think as parents we also need to take responsibility of how we react and treat and work with our children and the things that we do. How do we allow children to be at home at this time when it's exam time? And as you said, they are openly smoking, and not just cigarettes. I'm sure you saw they're smoking glue as well. So the moral decay in our community, we as community should take responsibility for that. In terms of the police and what the work that the police have to do, I mean, we at the Sophiatown police station still have a shortage of police, you know. And so what do we have? One policeman to, I don't know, about 5,000, 10,000 people? That in itself is a problem, okay? Yes, as you said, the TRT came in after the promise was made by the minister, but that has dwindled, that has gone down completely. We as CPF now have to fall in and work as well, not just as the CPF, as community policing forum, but we also social workers. You heard the gentleman that came to come and speak to me now on all sorts of ills in the community that we have to deal with. And we are not nurses, we are not social workers, we are none of those. People need to remember the CPF is a volunteering process to assist and be the eyes and the ears of the police in the community and get the community and the police to work together. But now we have to do all sorts of issues and deal with all sorts of ills in our community.
Thank you so much, Methili. Sorry, we've run out of time. There you have it, a parent and parents actually, worrying about their children going to parks, something as simple as that.
It's a terrible situation. Thank you very much, Masego Rahlacha, live for us in Westbury, that community also struggling to deal with the issue of gangs doing the rounds in the area. Let's go to Durban now, where that particular city has gang problems of its own. The reality of gangs operating in and around the coastal city came to the fore last week. The alleged boss of the Phoenix Bloods gang, Calvin Periasamy, was killed in a parking garage at the Gateway Mall. He was buried on Saturday, and joining us with more is ENCA reporter, that's Desen Thathia. He's live for us in Durban. Desen, good morning to you. So, hot in the heels of this alleged gang boss being killed. What's interesting here is that at the time of his death, Mr. Periasamy had been out on bail because he was accused of about 30 charges. These included drug dealing, criminal injuria, robbery, intimidation, kidnapping, and assault. Of course, he was charged alongside others. How has that community been coping with such things happening in that community?
Exactly, Koli, and in fact, the community, you'll just see just from both the comments that have been made here on social media, in fact, even on the day that Periasamy was shot at the Gateway Mall, you'll find that there's a divide. On the one side, you have some who are celebrating his death, saying that he was allegedly a criminal, that he was a gang boss, as well as also having other interests in business, in the tow trucking industry, as well as the minibus taxi industry as well. But then on the other side, there are those that were saying that he was a completely legal and successful businessman. Those are mostly his friends and family, some of whom had arrived there at Gateway after that shooting. Here where I'm standing now is nearby the hall where Periasamy's funeral was held, and that was just this weekend, as you mentioned. And there have been videos that have been circulating showing quite a bit of chaos here in the aftermath of that funeral, with vehicles driving past and revving. There were also some what appeared to be gang rituals that were taking place outside, and in the distance you could hear gunfire as well being fired, or rounds being let off in the air. And it really has once again raised the questions of how prevalent are gangs in the area, and really what effect is that having on the community of Phoenix. And I think before I bring in our guest here, Mr. Glenn Naidu of KZN VIP Security, he's worked in the area for many years, both as a police officer as well as the owner of a security company. I must stress that it's not a case of the entire area of Phoenix being ridden with gangs. There are certain parts, and it's particularly the poorer areas, as Mr. Naidu has been telling me. So let's start here. Calvin Periasamy was very well known, but as I mentioned, for different reasons. Some say he was a businessman, others say he was a gangster. What do you know about him?
Well, he's lived both the lives. As a businessman, he owned tow trucks, taxis, pawn shops, and various other businesses. Unfortunately, these businesses are not regulated. That gives leeway for people that own these businesses to do what they think that they have to do to survive. And this generally generates into problems, formation of gangs, and people looking after their own turf.
Talking about the prevalence of gangs in Phoenix, and we're now just mentioning the one that Periasamy was allegedly affiliated to. But in your experience, are there many in the area?
Yes, there's quite a few in Phoenix itself. Everybody's territorial. It all depends in which area you live or where your businesses operate from. That is their strongholds.
What is the community impact that you're seeing? I mean, you're in the private security business as well. Is there any direct link to crime and the crime levels here in Phoenix?
Most definitely. We've seen that, when it comes to the use of drugs, people need to feed their habits. The easiest and quickest way is to commit crimes, breaking into houses and then selling the stuff off to pawn shops, selling it to people that create a market for it. So at the end of the day, it's a complete circle.
But this is like an open secret in this area, just being one of the areas in which we find this. In fact, at the time, police would not confirm if it was, in fact, a gang leader or anything of the sort, but everyone else that you spoke to seemed to know that Periasamy was linked to the Bloods gang. Why is it that police would then, surely they must be aware of what the community is saying and who these gang leaders are, but we are seeing very few arrests. Why do you think that is?
It's a very simple answer. The South African police need, at the end of the day, to own up for what they know. It is sad that they don't speak the truth or they hide the truth for a considerable amount of time until they are forced to tell the truth. This is putting us years backwards in terms of fighting crime and trying to get our community up and running in a safe environment. Unfortunately, our crime intelligence is not working as well as they should. I think if everybody works together, we should be successful.
Thanks very much. That's Glenn Naidu from KZN VIP Security. And one of the things that he was touching on there at the end is relating to police being allegedly complicit in supporting the drug trade and also indirectly then promoting gangsterism. And that wouldn't be the first time we're hearing of it. There have been many allegations to that effect. And one has, we have yet to see as to what's happening with those investigations that have been taking place into exactly what role police have been playing in supporting these trades here in Phoenix.
Live from Phoenix, my colleague Tess Ntathia.